The story told in this video could be quite banal, but what's unusual about it is that in such cases, it's very rare to be alone with the criminal. To hear their thoughts, to understand their motives. It's a rather brutal story, especially the videos found by the police. In fact, this story is truly not for the faint of heart. Perhaps this is a story on a channel about the most vile person. So this is your last chance to stop. The story begins on June 2nd, 1985. On that day, two men entered a store in San Francisco. They spent a few minutes choosing items, then the store employees noticed that one of the two tried to take the device that was for sale and leave the store. The store employees tried to catch him, but he started to run and managed to escape. The store owner called the police. After that, the second of the two men approached him and said it was just a misunderstanding and that he was ready to pay for what his friend had stolen. But the police were already on their way. Store employees prevented the second man from escaping. Police eventually arrived within 10 minutes. They examined the man's identification, specifically his driver's license. They identified him as Robin Scott Stapley. They then approached his car, a 1980 Honda Prelude. After inspecting it, they found a pistol with a silencer in the trunk. Such items are illegal in California, so the man was taken to the station, where he promised to explain where he got the gun, but not before asking for a piece of paper and a glass of water. He wrote a short message on the paper and then drank the water. Seconds later, to everyone's surprise, he collapsed to the floor. The cause was that, unnoticed by anyone, he had swallowed a pill containing a cyclophosphamide he had with him. The man was taken to the hospital, where he died 4 days later. He had not regained consciousness. It was clear to police that the weapons charges were not the reason for his behavior. Of course, this man hid many more secrets. But how dark must they have been that he chose death, despite having the chance to hide them? Well, the police didn't have much in the way of background information to unravel the tangled web of mystery surrounding the past of a man who had committed suicide. However, there was one, perhaps crucial, element in this story. Before his death, the man finally admitted that his real name was not Robert Stapley, as stated on his driver's license, but Leonard Lake. Pretending to be Robert Stapley made no sense, as the photo on his driver's license bore little resemblance to the arrestee's actual appearance. It was the man's real name that began this terrifying story. Now that they knew his name, it was easy for the police to establish the man's supposed place of residence, an ordinary apartment in San Francisco. However, upon arriving there, the police learned that Lake hadn't lived there for over 3 years. Then the police turned to his ex-wife, a woman named Clarelyn Balaj. She, incidentally, was much younger than Lake, but they nevertheless married in 1981. They had known each other for 4 years before their marriage, but the marriage itself lasted only a year. His wife left Leonard Lake. As she said, they remained on friendly terms. And Clarelyn even allowed Lake to live on the remote ranch she had received from her parents. She was more attracted to big cities, so she didn't really need the ranch, but her ex-husband, Leonard Lake, was very interested in this remote plot of land. He eventually settled there, and the ranch was the place the police headed. It was a remote spot in the woods, approximately 100 acres in area. On this property was a house. On the very first day, police found several women's belongings inside the house. Blood on a mattress, and a lot of photography and video equipment. It's worth remembering the license and car that Lake had. The license belonged to Robert Stapley, and the car, as it turned out, belonged to a man named Paul Costner. Both Stapley and Costner had been reported missing for several months, adding further urgency to the investigation. On the first day, police were unable to complete their search of the house. because Claire Balish requested a search warrant, which the police did not have that day. They had to wait until the following day to continue the search, this time with a warrant. 2 vehicles were discovered on the property, belonging to Robert Scott Stapley, the man whose license Leonard Lake had in his possession when he was arrested. A small patch of land attracted the police's particular attention. It was bare and loose, as if it had recently been dug up. Digging down to a depth of half a meter, the police had already discovered what appeared to be bones. Experts soon determined that these were indeed bones belonging to a person. Continuing their excavations, the police found 2 barrels. One was quite light, the other, on the contrary, incredibly heavy. The second barrel contained human bones. The first contained several identification cards from different people. They belonged to the aforementioned Robert Stapley and Paul Costner, as well as a young couple, Lonnie Bond and Brandy O'Connor, who were also missing, along with their 1-year-old child. I think it shouldn't be difficult to connect the bones found in one of the barrels with the documents in the second. However, that's not all. Several video recordings were found in the barrels. This is probably incredibly rare for this kind of case, but some of these videos exist. On one of them, Leonard Lake talks about his desires. The video is quite long, so I'll only include a small excerpt here. The full version will be available at the end of the video.
Good evening. It's a Sunday in October, 22nd, 23rd, something like that. Very close to my 38th birthday. And I'm starting this tape without script or without any real organization of what I want to say. But I do feel I need to explain. This tape, what you're hearing now, is going to be the lead-in of the various phases of construction of a building. The main emphasis of the building, the whole justification for its expense and its effort, will be a hidden portion of it, a secret room, if we can call it that, that will house a cell. This is the word that I've used in my discussions of this subject. A jail cell, if you will. And the purpose of that cell, and the main purpose, hence, of the building, will be the imprisonment of a young lady who probably at this moment is unknown to me.
Vittorizi video to minutu. CDO as a gearval apology.
Let us know?
Probably not.
But why are you doing this?
Because we hate you.
Yeah.
Your baby is going to be taken away. Excuse me.
I'm going to be taken away. You're not taking my baby.
Her baby is sound asleep, like a rock. We don't like you. Would I like me to put it in writing?
It's done. Just stick to whatever we tell you.
If you go along with this, cooperate with this, we'll be as nice as we can to you within the limits of keeping you prisoner. If you don't go along with this, we'll probably take you into the bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you. So, my lady, time's up. Make your choice.
I want to be available.
That's all we wanted to hear.
This is not all that is available for viewing, but I think you understand that YouTube does not allow more violent footage to be inserted into videos. The only thing I can do is show you the rest in my Telegram channel. So, in the first recording, a girl named Brenda O'Connor, the same ID card found in one of the barrels. Her hands are tied, and Lake tells her she has a choice: become their slave or they'll kill her. Naturally, the girl wants to know where her child is, to which Lake replies that he's now stone silent. It's not hard to guess what he means by that. In the second video, a girl whose identity was unknown to the police is also offered to become Lake's slave for the second man. The one mentioned at the beginning of the video, the one who stole the vice from the store. You have to admit, it's pretty disgusting and creepy. Even if you just briefly imagine yourself in these girls' place, you'll feel uneasy. To be in such a situation, with nowhere to run, knowing that no one will hear your screams, essentially knowing that your life is over, but you will die very slowly and, judging by the setting in the video, the footage wasn't filmed in the ranch house, but then where? It took a long time, and there was no answer. Continuing the search of the ranch grounds, they discovered what looked like an underground bunker. Upon entering, the first impression was that it was an ordinary tool shed. Inside were a hammer, bolts, a saw, and the like, but one of the walls was unusual. It wasn't just a wall, but a door. Opening it, the police discovered a room measuring approximately 3 by 5 meters. The room contained a wooden platform, apparently used as a bed, a bucket used as a toilet, and toilet paper. On one wall was a window, the kind we often see in movies. On one side, it served as a mirror, on the other, clear glass. So, from the other side of the wall, one could discreetly observe what was happening inside. At that very moment, it became obvious that this was not just a room, but a real prison cell. Also, inside, on the wall, was a list of 6 rules, probably for someone who had once been in this cell. I must always be ready to serve the master. I must be clean. I must brush my teeth and must be careful with the things in the cell. I must not say anything until we are in bed. I must not look my master in the eye. My gaze must always show submission. I must never show disrespect. I must never cross my arms or legs. I must be obedient in everything. I must always do what my master tells me. Do it immediately without questions. I must always behave quietly in my cell. I must understand that any problems that I cause the master will result in pain or even death for me. Leonard Lake's diary contained numerous references to the book. That later became the film The Collector. It's about a man who collected butterflies until, in his fantasies, butterflies were replaced by a girl named Miranda. Based on Lake's diary, this book, and later the film, had a very serious impact on him, essentially serving as a kind of guide to action. By this point, the police already knew the identity of Lake's accomplice. They received this information from Lake's ex-wife, Charles Sitane. Let's dig a little deeper into their past. Leonard Lake, a native of San Francisco, was born on July 20th, 1946. His father abandoned his mother after Lake was born. Lake's mother was, to put it mildly, not a very modest woman. She wasn't shy about walking naked in front of the boy, sometimes sleeping with men for money, and saw nothing wrong with it. From a young age, Lake became accustomed to the naked female body. For some unknown reason, his mother encouraged him to photograph and spy on naked women. This was mostly either herself or Lake's sisters. When Lake was 13, his mother gave him to his grandmother. From that day on, he rarely saw his mother. During his school years, Lake extorted sexual favors from his sister in exchange for protection at school. After high school, Lake joined the Marine Corps in 1966. He spent some time in the Vietnam War. He then underwent 2 years of psychiatric therapy for unspecified mental health issues. He returned to civilian life in 1971. Lake had a reputation as a gun enthusiast, a hunter, and a man obsessed with sex. His favorite pleasure was filming bondage scenes involving his female partners. Soon, his first wife grew tired of her husband's fantasies, and they separated. Then, in 1977, Lake met his second wife, Caroline Balaj. They were in a relationship for 4 years before marrying in 1981. A year earlier, in 1980, Lake was charged with grand larceny, but he got off lightly. He received a 1-year suspended sentence. Lake's marriage to his second wife also didn't last long, as his fantasies required the submission of women, but Caroline didn't accept this. They eventually divorced, after which Lake moved to his ex-wife's ranch. Lake's accomplice, Charles Chetan Ng, was born in Hong Kong in 1961. He was the son of wealthy Chinese parents, but he was always a problem for them. The main problem was his penchant for stealing, which wasn't primarily about money. He likely suffered from kleptomania. In his youth, he was expelled first from school in Hong Kong, and then from a prestigious school in England. The reason was that he had been caught committing numerous thefts. Then, he stole as much money from his parents as he could and fled to the United States. There, he bought counterfeit documents and joined the army, but was caught stealing there too. Specifically, trying to sell weapons. Charles realized that this weakness would get him into trouble again, so he fled before his trial. This led him to meet Lake. He, through a newspaper ad, was looking for help building a bunker. Lake likely didn't intend to reveal all his plans to the helper, but later, realizing their interests were similar, he began sharing his ideas with the boy. Together, they began obtaining weapons from illegal sources and reselling them. In April 1982, a group of federal agents raided their warehouse. The men were arrested and charged with weapons violations. Lake was released on $6,000 bail. Once free, he went into hiding, using various aliases. Charles Sung, already a fugitive, was denied bail. In August 1982, he struck a deal with military prosecutors, pleading guilty to theft in exchange for a promise to serve no more than 3 years of a 14-year sentence. Ultimately, Ng was released after a year and a half. After leaving prison, he avoided deportation to China. He returned to California and reunited with Leonard Lake. By this time, Lake's bunker was already completed, and Lake himself had already committed several murders. As a result, the diaries, videos, and photographs, as well as bones found on the ranch, police determined that on May 22, 1983, Lake murdered 36-year-old Charles Gunnar for the purpose of robbery. He then kidnapped the family of 25-year-old Harvey Dubbs, 33-year-old Deborah Dubbs, and their 1-year-old child. It sounds incredibly cruel, but Lake raped her husband's wife in front of her. He then killed Harvey and, judging by the videos found by the police, according to their reports, sexually tortured Deborah so brutally that she died. Then, together with Charles D.G., they murdered 33-year-old Randy Johnson and 23-year-old Michael Carroll for profit. Then, in 1985, they kidnapped the girl we saw in the video, the one the police were initially unable to identify. She turned out to be 18-year-old Kathleen Allen. She was later also killed. Lake Ng's next victims were Robin Scott Stapley, Lonnie Bond Jr., and Brenda O'Connor, the girl we also saw in the video. These people rented a cottage for the weekend next to Lake's house. As you might guess, they were eventually kidnapped. Well, the last one, Paul Costner, was also killed, likely for the car he was selling, the very Honda Lake was driving when he was arrested. Police even managed to find an ad for this Honda in the newspaper. Even taking into account all the above, it is believed that the above list of victims is far from complete. To these people should be added another 14 people whose photos were found on Lake. Some of them, namely 6, girls turned out to be alive. Lake likely did not keep them in the bunker, and they were photographed voluntarily. The rest, also girls, aged approximately 12 to 30, were never identified. Well, Leonard Lake was dead. All that remained was to find Charles. It may sound absurd, but he was caught stealing again, about a month later in Calgary, Canada. It's important to note that this was in another country, Canada, where he could only be charged with illegally carrying the weapon he had with him at the time of his arrest. During the trial, he was convicted and sentenced to 4 years in prison. After serving his sentence, the United States requested that Ng be extradited to California. Charles's lawyers appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada, arguing that his extradition violated the Canadian Charter of Rights. Ultimately, after a 2-year international dispute, the Supreme Court of Canada ordered the extradition of Charles Ng, who was returned back to the United States in September 1991. Following the extradition, Ng and his legal team began manipulating the legal system to delay the start of the trial. In the 1990s, Ng filed several frivolous lawsuits and complaints against prison authorities, alleging poor food, mistreatment, the inadequate durability of the glasses he was given, forced searches of his cell, and the prohibition of origami practice. Ng also filed 5 motions to move his trial to Orange County. The last of these motions was ultimately granted in 1994. Ultimately, the trial did not begin until October 1998. During the trial, Ng's guilt was fully proven, leading to his conviction of 12 murders. On July 1, 1999, he was sentenced to death and subsequently transferred to death row for execution. At the time, Charles D.G.'s trial was the most expensive in California history, costing $14 million. As of 2022, 61-year-old Charles Ng is alive and awaiting execution, a death sentence he's been waiting for nearly 25 years. What hasn't been mentioned yet is the note Lake wrote at the station before his death. In it, he professed his love to his ex-wife, Clarilyn, and explained his suicide with the phrase, "Freedom is better than anything else." He also asked for forgiveness from his mother. The paradoxical thing about this whole story is that Leonard Lake and Charles Ng might have taken more lives, if not for Charles's foolish penchant for theft. Essentially, the price of their potential victims' lives was $15, the price of a vice stolen from a store. At the end, as promised, I'll include Leonard Lake's full reflections on life and women and his motives. Though brutal, he explains everything quite clearly.
Good evening. It's a Sunday in October, 22nd, 23rd, something like that. Very close to my 38th birthday. And I'm starting this tape without script or without any real organization of what I want to say. But I do feel a need to explain. This tape, what you're hearing now, is going to be the lead-in of the various phases of construction of a building, which hopefully will be the first of a series of underground buildings. The building will be multi-purpose. It'll serve as a tool room and a storage room for a lot of valuables and miscellaneous stuff that are useful to have, but not particularly items of immediate use that should be in the house. But the main emphasis of the building, the whole justification for its expense and its effort, will be a hidden portion of it, a secret room, if we can call it that, that will house a cell. This is the word that I've used in my discussions of this subject. A jail cell, if you will. And the purpose of that cell, and the main purpose, hence, of the building, will be the imprisonment of a young lady who probably at this moment is unknown to me. And nothing more. Well, actually I shouldn't say nothing more. The building, even the cell, will be multi-purpose. These are very trying times. There are wars and rumors of wars going on. Today 135 Marines were killed in Lebanon. So having secret rooms, underground rooms, protected by concrete and steel and buried by 4 feet of earth, these are fairly safe investments, and the room and the building and the whole ultimate series of buildings will be designed not around the cell, but ultimately around the concept of a secret, secure living place for myself and perhaps for friends. But this first phase, it would be a lie to say it was anything other than primarily emphasizing the cell. History may be bored. Posterity may care less about this tape, care less about what I have to say. To be honest, I'm not too sure who I want to show this tape to, or if I will ever show it to anyone. But for anyone that is interested, anyone who needs my justifications or my rationalizations as to why I would want to imprison and in fact enslave a young woman, they have only to look closely at me. I'm a realist. I'm 38 years old, a bit chubby, not much hair, and losing what I have. Not particularly attracted to women, or I should say, particularly attracting to women. And all of the traditional magnets, the money, the position / power, I don't have. And yet, I'm still very sexually active, and I'm still very much attracted to a particular type of woman who, almost by definition, is totally uninterested in me. Dirty old man, pervert. I'm attracted to young women. Sometimes even as young as 12. Although, to be fair, certainly 18 to 22 is a pretty much ideal range as far as my interests go. I like very slim women, very pretty, of course, petite, small-breasted, long hair, if I'm allowed, and such a woman, by virtue of her youth, her attractiveness, her desirability to certainly the majority of mankind, simply has options. There's no particular reason why such a woman should be interested in me. But there's more to it than that. It's difficult to explain my personality in 25 words or less, but I am in fact a loner. I enjoy the peace, the quiet, the solitude. I enjoy being by myself. And while my relationships with women in the past have been sexually successful, socially they've almost always been a failure. I've gone through 2 divorces, innumerable women, 50, 55, I forget exactly the count, I counted recently, but I'm afraid a bottom line statement is the simple fact that I'm a sexist slob. I enjoy using women, and of course women aren't particularly interested in being used. I certainly enjoy sex, I certainly enjoy the dominance of climbing on a woman and using her body. But I'm not particularly interested in the id, the ego, all the things that a man should be interested in to complement a woman's need. Now I can fake these emotions, and I can fake them very well. And in the past I've been very successful with attracting fairly interesting and attractive women simply because I did fake fairly well an interest in their needs and their requirements. So momentarily I had what I wanted and they thought they had what they wanted. But in the long term, I don't want to bother. What I want is an off-the-shelf sex partner. I want to be able to use a woman whenever and however I want. And when I'm tired or satiated or bored or not interested, I simply want to put her away, lock her up in a little room, get her out of my sight, out of my life, and thus avoid what heretofore has always been the obligation to entertain or amuse or satisfy a particular woman or girlfriend's whims of emotional whatevers. Such an arrangement, of course, is not only blatantly sexist, but highly illegal, there's no doubt about it. It violates all of the human rights and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to spare posterity my concepts of other people's morality. I'm explaining my morality, what I feel, what I want. And as of this moment, I'm going to try to get it. The advantages of such a situation are, of course, obvious, and even beyond sexual. Such a woman, totally enslaved, would be useful for the mundane chores that I have to do, but I'm not particularly interested in doing. Clean house, washing dishes, etc. Slave, there's no way around it. Primarily a sexual slave, but nonetheless a physical slave as well. And I believe that I can, if I can construct a holding cell, a place where I can put such a woman, where I can walk off and feel secure that she can't escape, that I can create a facility that is so stark and so empty, so cold, so quiet, so totally removed from the world, that fairly quickly, by a combination of painful punishments when I'm displeased and minor rewards such as music or magazines or some such stuff, that I can quickly condition, this is my belief, that I can quickly condition a young woman to cooperate with me fully, and in fact even look forward to cooperating with me fully, simply if for no other reason than such cooperation would be a relief from boredom. Whether I can do this or not will remain to be seen. Obviously, I've never done such a thing before, and it may not work. However, I want to try. I want to try. The cost of this enterprise is going to be immense. We're talking about $5,000, thousands of dollars for foundations, $2,000 for bricks, hundreds of dollars for, power equipment to dig the earth out, many, many costs. Still, life as I'm living it is boring. The challenge of this project, the excitement, the thrill if it succeeds, even the exciting experience if it fails, as long as I don't get caught. It's very attractive. It's something that I fantasize daily about. We'll see. I don't think there's more to say on the subject. This hopefully will be a history. Starting tomorrow, I start clearing the land. I've hired a man with a chainsaw to come over and cut some trees. And tomorrow evening a backhoe will arrive, and I'll start excavating the earth. It'll be interesting to see how far this tape can I actually go.